Part 61. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 601. Soul contract, sign here, fingerprint here. After a moment, a black light flashed, and the soul contract between Yebai and Hiwa came into effect. When did this guy change his profession to the soul system? Xuemeng murmured quietly from the side. Originally, Shuro was already exploiting people hard enough on the physical level, and could basically squeeze out all the remaining value. It's better now. Directly transfer to the soul system. After the body is completely exploited, he will not even let go of the soul. Crazy and heartbroken is yes. Looking at the contract signed by Black Mist, Xuemeng couldn't help but sigh. This strong man who has survived to this day in ancient times is still too young after all. She didn't understand at this time that every contract she signed with Shuro was a contract of betrayal. There is no escape. Perhaps, this is the fate that the ancient strong men cannot escape. Thinking from another angle, Xuemeng found that emotionally, this matter was easier to accept. Fortunately, she met Shura. If you meet Big Daddy, your sleep quality will be worrying for the rest of your life. If you meet your second father, there will be no rest for the rest of your life. If you encounter Xiaoao, your quality of life will be worrying for the rest of your life. Compared with the previous three, Shura is actually the most merciful one. Unexpected. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. With that said, Xuemeng was about to leave the place of right and wrong. Wait, you can't leave. Yebai forced Xuemeng to stay, his eyes wandering between Xueyang and Jinzhu. After thinking for a moment, Yebai pointed at the little golden pig and said domineeringly, "I'm going to take her away today, my Thai pancake, Naogan, is stopping me." Everyone? Sorry, I don't speak Cantonese very well. Yebai turned around and wanted to ask Dracula to help him translate. In this embarrassing scene, Dracula could always find the most comfortable step to take Yebai to the next level. But he was surprised to find that his most convenient tool, the pig, was killed by Cain. For a moment, Yebai was filled with grief and anger, and shouted angrily, "Cain, you have done all the bad things." After saying that, he casually folded his ready-to-go thunder palm and beat Cain to death. After dealing with Cain, Yebai repeated what he just said. "I'm going to take her away today, let's see who dares to stop me." "Who the hell stopped you?" Xuemeng looked puzzled. "I'll take you with me, as long as I don't get killed." After betraying the little golden pig, Xuemeng turned around and explained to the other party. "This is the latest generation of the most powerful seeds of our human race. He will have the final say in the next 30 years. You should adapt in advance." Golden Pig Lilith? How did your human race degenerate into this? Is this the new generation of powerful seeds? That's it? That's it? Apparently, no one spoke a word. But their expressions and eyes have been humiliated countless times. "Look, Cain is dead too, let's talk about business." After Shura killed Cain with his own hands, Lilith was finally not so nervous. To her, Cain is the most terrifying existence. Yebai asked kindly. "First question, why is Cain chasing you? Then ask him." Lilith almost cried. "I'm the fucking victim, okay? You ask a victim why he is being hunted. Could it be that I paid $1 billion to let a snail chase me crazily? Hiss. That makes sense. I'll ask." Yebai emphasized. "I am the most fair and impartial person. Both of you can speak freely. I promise that I will never listen to any bias. In your opinion, why did Cain pursue you?" The little golden pig was silent for a moment, twisted his body, and said coquettishly, "I'm actually pretty useless. I've always been weak. I don't have much status in the vampire clan. I'm bullied everywhere. In Lilith's mouth. Yeb, I heard a familiar theory, as long as you become a waste, no one can take advantage of you. Lilith has been in ruins for more than a day or two. She has been a waste since ancient times. She relies on her sister to be a blood ancestor, eating and drinking everywhere, sitting around and waiting to die. Success or failure is tied to her sister, blood ancestor. If it succeeds, the chicken and dog will ascend to heaven. If you fail, you will ascend to heaven where you stand. Cain didn't even bother to look at such a waste, let alone pursue him specifically. After introducing her situation, Lilith expressed her guess. He may think that as long as I encounter a life or death crisis, my sister will definitely not sit idly by and ignore it, and will probably help me. This conjecture is very reasonable. Cain ignored his good aim and stabbed himself again when he was seriously injured. That's it? Kill it and try. In this way, it was not difficult for Cain to have a bold idea. On the 40th floor, I don't know what mechanism was triggered. Cain's reshaped body was trapped in the 40th floor. In order to escape, he could only continue to hunt down with his spirit body. The sky is not responding to the call, and the earth are not working. Originally, I was fostered in the forbidden land of the dragon clan, but they didn't want to offend Cain, so I asked a little dragon to take me away. To be precise, Cain would not feel bad as long as it was not Cain who died. In order to relieve the other party's tension, Nightmare asked thoughtfully. If you don't even dare to mess with Cain, how can you be considered a member of the upper three clans? On the other side, the little golden pig fell directly into the novice copy. In this case. Why are you shivering? Is it cold? Escape from the eternal temple with only one goal, to find the blood ancestor. Blood ancestor takes special care of Lilith. Eat slowly and don't choke. There are a lot of compressed biscuits. After thinking about it carefully, Yeb, I immediately understood. Did you have a nightmare? At that time, the Eternal Tower was still flying in the void. Cain defected from the Eternal Temple. He was powerful and had many god-level puppets in his hands. Lilith also had her first meal. The little golden pig fled all the way, running from the 82nd floor to the 40th floor in one breath. Then what? I don't know how much time has passed, but the newbie copy welcomed its first visitor. Nightmare squatted down, covered the piggy with a rag, and picked him up. Even the powerful dragon clan was unwilling to provoke Cain. The blood ancestors are all gone, how can we still have face? Even if he kills by mistake, fails, and dies as a loser, Cain doesn't feel bad. If he chases me, he will run away. The little golden pig scratched his head and looked a little confused in his eyes. And Lilith is the only being who has a blood relationship with the blood ancestor. Don't just eat canned food, drink some water. What's more, taking care of Lilith is just for the blood ancestor's sake. Yeb, I asked further. Yeb, I couldn't help but rolled his eyes. This dragon clan was quite disdainful. The little golden pig, which was full of food and drink, had a round belly. Before taking 2 steps, it fell over and trembled on the spot. Little golden pig also saw that man, the first strongest person in the human race. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 602. Big Brother is still Big Brother. After listening to the story of Piggy and Nightmare, Yeb, I couldn't help but sigh. He still cares about other people's sleep quality. He is so gentle, I cried to death. Okay, the storytelling is over. You can pack up and come back to the sheepfold with me. Everyone? Question marks appeared above everyone's head. Schwemmeng's question mark was that Shura openly called his exclusive space the sheepfold. Is this really good? Teacher Shiu, is this allowed to be said? The question mark for Zaizu is that after everything he knows has been told, why do he still want to leave? The strong man in the black mist has only one problem. Shouldn't a pig pen be called a pig pen? Yabai had long been accustomed to everyone's reactions and waved to Xiaozu. Let's go, you have nowhere else to go. Lilith said weakly. Actually, it's good to stay here. For the past 100 years, she had been living on the 38th floor eating and waiting to die. Apart from not having a sister, she had no regrets. She was a perfect pig. Looking at the resisting little pig, Yabai patiently explained. The Eternal Tower is no longer safe. You see, this level has been taken away by the men of the most powerful demon. Yabai pointed at the black mist and said. The person here today is an acquaintance of yours, and he's polite to you. If an enemy came tomorrow, wouldn't you just burp your butt? Lilith fell silent. Before I came, Mr. Lan meant the same thing. Xuemeng opened his mouth and sent an assist. He suggested that after this incident is over, you'd better leave the 38th floor. If Lilith leaves this level, there are not many places she can go. It is definitely impossible to be around the most powerful person. On the one hand, she is Nightmare's pet and is not familiar with the other strongest beings. And for some reason, she couldn't stay with Nightmare. On the other hand, there are not many strong human beings who can take her in. Lilith ate the lucky 40-leaf clover and became extremely lucky. But being lucky to a certain extent is also unfortunate in a certain sense. If you are very lucky, your lifespan will be shortened easily. Lilith once considered following a powerful wind mage, who looked so strong that he even broke the clearance record on the 38th floor. Just a brief contact. This strong man had a smooth journey and broke through to the 9th level of God of War. Then he became world famous. On the street of Abyss, if you ask around, no one will know, Su Qingfeng, the weakest 9th level war god of the 2 races and 3 realms. With the precedent set, Lilith did not dare to have too much contact with the powerful human race. There are not many people who are tough enough to suppress Lilith. The most powerful seed, Shura, is undoubtedly the best candidate. Am I following you? Lilith looked at Xuemeng and tried to make a final struggle. Back then, your father and I fought together in the north and south, and we cooperated very well. Every time the equipment explodes, I touch it. Yeah, bye. This guy really treats himself as a pet. One good thing about Lilith is that she has a strong self-awareness about her useless self. In her opinion, by following Xuemeng, she could continue to have fun. And I'm very lucky. Aren't you short of money? You will definitely make more money. It would be better if Lilith didn't say this. As soon as she said that, Xuemeng almost broke through his defense on the spot and his heart collapsed. Why do you think my dignified and powerful adopted son is in poverty? Lilith, look carefully at the man in front of you. This is the source of all evil and the existence that brings disaster. Don't talk about money, quit. Xuemeng's vicissitudes of life were full of stories. After being rejected by Xuemeng, even if Lilith was 10,000 reluctant, she had only one last choice left. Be good, wrap it up yourself. Yabai took off the cloak and placed it in front of Lilith. This golden pig must be taken back. But the bankruptcy is still in effect. If you pick it up directly, the little golden pig turns into a little copper pig. That would not be a loss of wealth, but a loss of defense. Lilith took 2 steps forward, lowered her head and sniffed. Why does it smell like dog? 3-headed dog from hell, is it my fault? Yabai's face was covered with black lines and he urged. It would be nice to have some to wear, hurry up. After coaxing and deceiving, the little golden pig took on the wind of nightmare. Yabai hugged it first and found that the little thing looked really unique. Afterwards, he handed Lilith to Gabriel and warned. Take it back and put it away. Oh. Gabriel took the piggy and returned to Yabai's exclusive space. This was over, and the black mist slowly receded. On the entire 38th floor, only Yabai and Xuemeng were left in an instant. Lao Lan has another question. Before Xuemeng finished speaking, Ye Bai rushed to answer. The blood ancestor is dead. Xuemeng fell into silence. From the moment he saw Lilith, the eye of insight reminded Ye Bai. Blood ancestor, confirmed to be dead. Perhaps because of the twins, Ye Bai was able to view information related to the blood ancestor through Lilith. Maybe there is an inside story, maybe someone can come back from the dead. Ye Bai listed several possibilities, but emphasized. Based on the judgment of the SSS level talent, the blood ancestor at this moment is in a certain sense of death. This statement is very rigorous and cannot find any faults. Probably dead. Xuemeng shook his head and added. Don't underestimate SSS level talents. Unless it involves the most powerful being, you basically can't go wrong. There is a saying, neither pink nor black, just a passerby, a guest in the right mind. Xuemeng is right. Ye Bai also understands this truth. If you want to influence SSS level talents, blood ancestor is not worthy. In terms of abusing food, Danian's performance has been very stable. Pity. Xuemeng sighed. If the blood ancestor is still alive, it may be good news for the human race. Obviously, based on what happened in ancient times, the human camp has a good sense of the blood ancestor and believes that the other party is a strong person who can cooperate. Ye Bai said casually. Speaking of which, tomorrow we go to the 8th abyss to play with Poseidon. Don't forget to learn from the golden abyss. I have no energy, I'm hanging up, let's not talk anymore. Without giving Shura a chance to continue speaking, Xuemeng left the 38th floor. If you want him to learn from Huang Jinyuan, there is no way. TNND. Ye Bai was so anxious that he jumped up and down. Don't let me find out who came up with this bad idea. I must kill him. The matter of Huang Jinyuan has been bothering Ye Bai, making him think about food instead of tea. Hey, maybe this is the punishment for my impulsiveness. Ye Bai could only admit that he was unlucky. He knew very well that by now, the second brother probably knew about the grumpy old pigeon. But there is also good news. I no longer have to deal with skills like losing money. If the second brother Wuhan suddenly changes his sword skills, there is really nothing Ye Bai can do. Ye Bai also had a new understanding of the sentence everything close to the strongest will inevitably suffer disaster. The most powerful people of the 4 generations before and after the human race would be miserable as long as they became their enemies. Shura is an exception. Being Shura's teammate is also miserable. After Xuemeng left, Ye Bai did not stay any longer and directly summoned the Eternal Core Crystal. Soon, a server-wide announcement sounded. Congratulations to player Shura for successfully retaking the 38th floor of the Eternal Tower. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 603. Simply brush up the SSSS grade. Ye Bai quietly returned to his own exclusive space. Upon his return, he saw a pig hanging in the attic. Ye Bai. Hang it higher, yes, yes. Dracula directs below while a team of craftsmen build the loft. Gabriel was confused and asked. Is that really what you mean? Listen to me, you're right. Dracula patted his chest and promised. If my master doesn't mean it this way, I'll hang myself up. If you say you can put it on the shelf, then you must put it on the shelf. A cold voice came from behind Dracula. Okay, hang up. Dracula? Why is the demon lord back? Why didn't my hat give me a warning? Did you fix that hat yourself? Ye Bai rolled his eyes and complained. After the repair, the timeliness is unstable and can only be predicted once a day. After complaining, Ye Bai looked at Gu Jin and ordered. Charge him the appraisal fee once and keep it in the account. Dracula. Yabai looked ahead. It was originally a flat land, but now a high pavilion had been built. Master, didn't you say you wanted to put it on the shelf? Dracula hung himself up while not forgetting to flatter him. The villain just built this high pavilion and named it Tianxia Pavilion. How about it? Tianxia Pavilion? Wanhua Pavilion? The pavilion of all things in the world? Interesting. Yabai looked at Dracula hanging in the air and sighed. If you were born in ancient times, you would at least be a Grand Duke of Wei Zongxian's level. Master is so complimentary. Dracula hung himself up and looked at the little golden pig. Lilith, we meet again. The little pig's eyes were full of confusion. Hey, do we know each other? As expected, you don't recognize me anymore. Dracula showed a kind smile imitating Shura's. I don't know, let me introduce myself. I am Dracula, the orthodox vampire destined to kill Cain. Lilith said warily. You wouldn't lie to me, would you? You said you are an orthodox vampire, are you? Wait a moment. Dracula murmured. I am a pig, I am a pig. Soon. There are two pigs hanging above the Tianxia pavilion. Lilith looked at the white-skinned pig that suddenly appeared and began to doubt the pig. Dracula smiled evilly. Look, it's orthodox. So orthodox? There are two pigs hanging on the Tianxia pavilion. For those who didn't know, they thought Yabai was curing ham. Yabai walked in the empty pavilion, with Gabriel following behind. After Cain was resurrected, his face was dark and he stayed far away. He is a dignified and taboo prince, he is shameless. In the entire exclusive space, if Yabai wanted to find someone who was not such a bitch to chat with, he was probably the only one with Gabriel. Yabai walked up to the top of the pavilion and overlooked the entire exclusive space. Tianxia Pavilion, Xiajiazi is angry. Yabai said seriously. Everything in the world is included, as well as in heaven. Ever since he learned about the existence of the upper world, Yabai's ambition did not stop there. Gabriel frowned slightly and asked. Do you want to build a world between heaven and earth? Puff. The atmosphere that Yabai had managed to create was ruined. God is in heaven and on earth. Don't mention that word. Yabai waved his hand and continued. What kind of existence is the upper world? It's a paradise, a land of sin, without death or fighting. Gabriel talked a lot and finally said. This is recorded in the history books of the Angel clan. Yabai asked back. I guess none of them have been to the upper world, right? Here in Yabai, the image of the upper world is not very good. Gabriel nodded, yes. Do you believe it? Do not believe. Gabriel shook his head. We are all smart people, just listen to fairy tales, myths, and legends. To a certain extent, they are also myths in other people's mouths. Sitting on the top of the Tianxia pavilion, Yabai looked into the distance and remained silent. After a while, a pig roar came from Tianxia pavilion. Put me down. Let me down. Lilith protested. It's time for me to have midnight snack. As a wasteful dim sum person, she never misses any opportunity to eat dim sum. Go. Yabai waved his hand, and Lilith landed from the air and began to enjoy her late night snack. These four things are eating, drinking, prostitution, and gambling. Lilith and prostitution and gambling are inseparable, and they are closely related to eating and drinking. It's really a pig. Yabai continued to wait for the vampire clan boss he ordered to be delivered to his door. 5 working vampires are waiting online. At the same time, today's wolf lair is still very lively. After Xuemeng returned from the 38th floor, he knew whether Shuro would come over soon. This is a happy time reserved for Xuemeng alone. Not long after, Yeju also came over. As soon as the two met, Xuemeng couldn't wait to share with him what he had seen and heard today. Brother, I was wrong before. Xuemeng patted his thigh in annoyance. Shepherd is not a human being at all. He is more evil than a devil. Xuemeng described what Mu Yang did that he saw today without adding any exaggeration. Certainly. In order to protect Shura's personal information, Xuemeng hid a lot of key information. After listening to Xuemeng's description, Yeju nodded slowly. What Brother Meng said is absolutely true. If what Xuemeng said is true, then Wang is indeed hateful. No wonder the Dream Master said that some young people were confusing Xuemeng. Looking at Xuemeng's appearance, he was also suffering a lot. Yeju expressed deep sympathy. What a pity. It would have been better if you had met the Dream Master earlier. If he was a Dream Master, he would definitely be able to help Xuemeng solve his troubles. Xuemeng chuckled and said nothing. In his opinion, 99.99% of the Dream Master Yeju spoke of was his adoptive father's nightmare. Yeju said frankly. Brother Meng, I need to report this matter to Dream Master. In terms of life and work, Yeju has always been very open-minded. It's okay, just report it. Xuemeng thought for a while and added. Don't say that I told you to say it. Forget it, I'll just leave. If Muang knows that I asked you to snitch. Obviously, Xuemeng has a great psychological shadow on Mu Yang. In order not to leave any clues, Xuemeng took the first step. After Xuemeng left, Yeju found a private space and contacted the Dream Master. Dream Master, my disciple has made a major discovery. Hearing Yeju's words, Ye Bai felt happy in his heart. Is there any news about that grudge? As long as Ye Bai knows who is giving Xuemeng bad ideas behind his back, he will definitely not get any good results. Yeju, his good disciple, is still reliable in his work. It took only one day to find out so much information. Tell me the story. Ye Bai put on a posture of listening attentively. Disciple can basically confirm that the young man next to Brother Meng. Yeju's tone was very serious and he said meticulously. It's definitely not a human being, but a demon clan. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 604. Not a human being. Ye Bai frowned and realized that things were not simple. The person who came is not kind. The demon clan is not quite the same as the demon clan. In a sense, demons are a general term used to refer to those demonized and corrupted beings. For example, the eighth demon god that Ye Bai killed alone was once a member of the Desolate tribe. After being demonized, he became a demon god. Master Fool is also a demon, but I don't know what race she was before she became a demon. With Yeju's information, Ye Bai quickly locked the target. Is it that black mist? The black mist entrenched on the 40th floor has a very complex composition and should be considered a demon. The more Ye Bai thought about it, the more reliable it seemed. Black Mist, who escaped from the Supreme Abyss, secretly contacted Xuemeng through some unknown means, and gave the innocent Xuemeng the bad idea of Golden Abyss. That's why Ye Bai is in pain now? It's great, I'm starting to understand everything. Ye Bai gritted his teeth angrily, wishing he could rush to the 40th floor now and punch his opponent bang bang twice. The truth of the matter should be like this. Ye Bai took a few deep breaths to calm down his mood. Death early and death late is a good death. Anyway, the other party has signed a soul contract, and there is no way he can escape from his grasp. Don't worry, just play with her. After calming down, Ye Bai looked into the distance, and several weak figures appeared in the void. It was Ye Bai who spent nearly $1 million on the God of War's meritorious service to buy the blessings to hit the workers. The goods are here. The 5 vampire clan elders are all level 989, with powerful strength and high status. As we all know, vampires are an extremely strong-willed race, and it would take a lot of effort to subdue these vampires. Ye Bai thought he was soft-hearted and sighed. I'm still not very good at this kind of thing, let my subordinates do it. With that said, Yabai sent a message to Cain and promoted him to supervisor on the spot, responsible for managing the elders of the vampire clan. After sending out Cain, Yabai thought for a moment and then struck down with a thunderbolt, helping Dracula transform back into a vampire. Go and bring the person back. Shura's exclusive space. At a certain entrance, 5 weak figures appeared one after another. They looked around cautiously and kept a safe distance from each other. An old man with a haggard look and a sinister expression spoke hoarsely. Ahem, my experience in Wanwu Pavilion, everyone. Before he could finish speaking, the other 4 people nodded quickly. Secret, absolutely confidential. As the elders of the Blood Clan, they are truly inferior to 2 people and superior to tens of thousands of people, and their status is extremely high. The results of it? In the Wanwu Pavilion, he was hung like cargo. You also need to draw blood regularly. Shame, this is a huge shame. A clan elder said bitterly. Sooner or later. As big as your mother. The leading old man cursed loudly and sprayed the opponent with a bloody bat. Do you still dare to hate Wanwu Pavilion? The Wanwu Pavilion is tyrannical among all races and buys and sells by force. Is it because of its golden sign of being innocent? Fart. It relies on the words Iao. Through the tragic experience of Wanwu Pavilion, the 5 clan elders gained a new understanding of the 3 words the most powerful. As long as Xiaoao lives for 1 day, they have no chance of revenge. I don't know who is so lucky as to buy us. The leading clan elder said coldly. If we want to regain our freedom, we need to work together to overcome the difficulties together. They are the big shots of the vampire clan. Although the tiger is in trouble for a while, there is still a chance to make a comeback after all. Even though they haven't met their new masters yet, these vampires are already thinking about escaping from prison. Among the 13 clans, our 5 clans are the strongest. The clan leader with the rose pattern embroidered on the neckline spoke elegantly. As long as we work together sincerely, we will be able to restore the glory of the vampire clan in just a short time. Hearing this, the 5 people present felt excited and couldn't help but think about it. The blood ancestor disappeared and Cain died. Such a great opportunity, as long as you can escape from this world, stand on the top of another mountain, and carry the banner of the vampire clan. The position of blood ancestor is within reach. A better tomorrow is waiting for them. While the 5 clan elders were having their own whims, an inappropriate voice sounded. Thump. The clan elder standing on the outermost side suddenly knelt down. What happened? What are you doing? Even if you buy us, you can't buy our dignity. The irritable clan elder with the red wine glass embroidered on his sleeve said dissatisfiedly. If you continue to be so embarrassed, I will convene a meeting of clan elders and expel you. Halfway through his words, he suddenly got stuck in his throat and couldn't say more than one word. A strange young vampire appeared next to the clan elders at some unknown time. The eyes of the grumpy old man were round and full of shock, as if he had seen a ghost. The performance of another clan elder was even worse than him. He stretched out a finger tremblingly and murmured. It's time, it's time, it's time. Thump. He didn't kneel down, he just rolled his eyes and fainted from fright. But the taboo name he did not call out appeared in everyone's heart. Cain. The forbidden prince among the forbidden princes, the most feared being of all vampires, the man known as the Shadow Blood Ancestor. Certainly. Cain was very disdainful of the last title, so he never mentioned it to anyone. All the clan elders knelt down one after another, but each person's kneeling posture was slightly different. Someone knelt down on one knee and put his right hand on his chest. He had sworn allegiance to Cain and would follow him to the death. There were also people who knelt on their knees, with faces as if they were concubines, and hearts as grey as death. They fell into the hands of Cain, and their skin would be peeled off even if they were not dead. Others knelt down, rolled around, and went directly to lick Kane's boots. Their flattery was beyond words. As expected of a vampire, you can do so many tricks just by kneeling. After Kane, a male voice sounded, which seemed familiar to all the tribes present. Someone braved it and looked up. "It's you." Apparently, a vampire elder recognized Dracula's identity. "It's strange that someone actually knows me," Dracula asked with curiosity on his face. "There's something wrong with my brain. I can't remember who I am. Please tell me." At this time, Yebai, who was passing by, pricked up his ears and didn't miss a word. The clan elder looked hesitating and not daring to speak. Kane said coldly, "I forgive you." No matter how taboo what was said next, Kane was okay with it. Even with Kane's guarantee, the clan elder still refused to speak and gritted his teeth. Kane smiled coldly and changed his mind. "If you don't tell me, then you can just go and die. No vampire can face the threat of death," I said. Everyone's eyes were focused on this clan elder. He was sweating and his face was pale. The words that came out of his mouth made Dracula's face darken, uglier than eating shit. "You, the great Dracula, are the first male favorite of the blood ancestor. I'm not in a good state today. If I count on my fingers, I may have to return to the earthly world tomorrow. Online games, only I can see hidden information." Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 605. What the hell? As soon as the clan elder finished speaking, Dracula rushed up and wanted to strangle this nonsense guy to death. "Urgent, urgent, there is a vampire in urgent need." Even without Yebai taking action, Kane could easily stop Dracula. "Oh." The noble taboo prince grinned slightly and sneered. "Expand your story." Hearing that there was gossip here, even the fool master trotted over with little Mazar in his arms. "No matter what I can't do, I will be the first to eat melons." This. The clan elder, who was surrounded by all the eyes, was trembling all over and felt extremely guilty. It's not that he's afraid of Dracula, he's just a doting and easygoing guy, so there's nothing to be afraid of. He is afraid of the blood ancestor. "In the name of the blood ancestor, I forgive you." Kane saw his concern, took out a coat of arms directly from the river of blood, and wrote an imperial edict on the spot. "Stamp it with a blood emblem and it will take effect immediately." Yebai. You underestimated Kane. When you are a eunuch, you just have fun watching Dracula. If you really want to be a eunuch, you still have to watch Kane. Since he supervised the construction of the Eternal Tower, it is reasonable for Kane to retain the blood ancestor's token in his hand. The most important thing is that in the later stage of the blood ancestor, in order to break through the bottleneck and become the strongest, he rarely managed mundane things. Kane is taking care of all the affairs of the vampire clan. It is precisely because of this that Kane was dubbed the Shadow Blood Ancestor within the vampire clan. Not a blood ancestor, but better than a blood ancestor. After receiving the imperial edict, the clan elder finally plucked up the courage and said bravely. The blood ancestor once announced to the outside world that Dracula was the first male favorite. Everyone in the blood clan felt like they were seeing the blood ancestor. The more he spoke, the darker Dracula's face became. Who was Dracula before today? A rebel of the blood clan, a deviant, a strong man who ushered in a new era of the blood clan, a strong contender for the next blood ancestor. After today, all this disappeared. Dracula has only one identity left, the male favorite. Yebai, who had been watching the melon eating, suddenly asked. This blood ancestor, how many male favorites does she have? When the clan elder heard the voice, he looked over and saw that a weak human race who was not even as powerful as the Duke dared to ask him directly, and he couldn't help but become furious. I can't afford to offend Kane, so I can't afford to offend you. Anger arises from the heart, evil arises from the courage. The clan elder immediately cursed angrily. Where did the slave come from? As soon as he spoke, Dracula and Kane's expressions changed drastically, and the expressions of the Fool Master also became rich. Everyone knows very well what qualities a vampire has. In ancient times, vampires often kept human beings in captivity in their territories. In the eyes of the clan elders, humans are all slaves and goods, inferior to even the filthiest blood slaves. With this background, I saw the great power of Kane again. The clan elder subconsciously believed that Kane was the owner of this exclusive space. And Yebai, a human with little strength and little education, dared to interrupt the great majesty Kane. I can't bear it. This is no longer an ordinary human race, it must be dealt a heavy blow. Then he naturally said something dirty to Yebai. Before he could finish his words, a terrifying river of blood fell from the sky, suppressing him so hard that he couldn't make a sound. Brush. Countless red lines crossed the clan elder's body, splitting him into pieces. The fragments turned into bats, and the clan leader wanted to resurrect him, but Dracula did not give him this chance. Then the sea of blood surged up, swallowing all the bats and suppressing them in the sea of blood. Being in a sea of blood, the clan elder was horrified to find that his strength was declining rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he fell from a level 989 expert to less than level 600. The most terrifying thing is that the sea of blood seems to be a powerful force against vampires. In the sea of blood, it seems that it is trapped in a quagmire, and even if it is extremely powerful, it cannot do anything. It's not bad, don't go too far. Yebai's voice came from the blood sea. Just as the clan elder felt happy, he thought he had escaped disaster. Just listen to the man continue to say. Drain the essence and blood and throw it back to Wanwu Pavilion. It will be returned and exchanged within 7 days. Okay. Dracula was particularly active in his work, and he did not forget to look at the remaining 4 clan elders. How about returning these as well? Elders of all clans. Are you a vampire? Oh, me too. That's okay. That's not how the wool of Wanwu Pavilion is gathered. Yebai waved his hand, indicating that he didn't care about the other party's offense. On the contrary, Kane and Dracula made a fuss. Yebai said angrily. Am I such a narrow-minded person? Kane, Dracula. Please have some self-awareness in your heart. If the clan elder had finished what he said just now, all the vampires present would have died, more than once. Moreover, Kane suspected that in order to take revenge, the demon lord might come up with some harmful tricks. After all this trouble, the vampire elders present, even with cerebral palsy, recognized a reality. This seemingly weak human race actually made Kane a little afraid. A human race, less than level 600, makes Kane afraid. This information is combined. Smart people can quickly think that it has been more than 30 years since the establishment of the Pavilion of all things, and it is time for the human race to have new powerful seeds. Shura. Although they were hung in the Pavilion of all things, regular blood draws gave them the opportunity to communicate with the outside world. Naturally, we know that the new most powerful seed of the human race is named Shura. Is he Shura? It doesn't look very scary. Many of the clan elders present had dealt with the strongest human beings one after another. They knew very well that the feeling of oppression from the strongest was coming head-on. In contrast, Shura seems somewhat harmless to humans and animals. You know nothing. Dracula saw the thoughts of these clan elders and snorted coldly in his heart. After you have been in contact with Shura for a long time, you will understand. This is the most terrifying powerful seed. Back to the previous question. Yebai brought the topic back. How many male favorites does Blood Ancestor have? The clan elder who was suppressed by the sea of blood replied without any hesitation. 1. Hiss. Everyone looked at Dracula with playful eyes. Yebai joked. This belongs to thousands of worlds, and you are the only one who loves me. Dracula's face turned blue and white, and he couldn't say a word for a long time. Okay, let Gujin handle the return matter, and take everyone else to the factory. Yabai clapped his hands and said kindly. Time is money, my friends. Seeing that the most powerful seed Shura is so easy to talk to, the elders from all the tribes also breathed a sigh of relief. It should not be difficult to get along with him. The next days won't be too difficult. You've already wasted a lot of my money, so. Yabai changed the topic and said seriously. We need to raise interest rates. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 606. Come on, let's get to work. Cain led 4 clan elders to the production line that had been prepared long ago. Gujin was arranging production tasks on the side. Only 2 shifts a day. When they heard this, the 4 vampire elders were relatively calm. Not to mention 2 shifts, even 3 shifts, what's the difficulty? A 12-hour shift. Clan elder? He couldn't help but ask. Wait, doesn't that mean we are working every minute? Even a vampire would find such treatment a bit too vampiric. What, you have an opinion? Cain's gaze swept over, the temperature dropped a few degrees, and all the clansmen fell silent. My boss is very humane. Because to purchase you, you have paid a lot of God of War merits. It is reasonable for you to earn this money back first, right? Gujin's words are well-founded and convincing. The clan leaders could not think of any reason to object for a while. Of course, 70% of your daily income is used to repay debts, interest first and then principal, and 30% is used as personal income. After paying 24% personal income tax, there is still 6% left. At this time, question marks began to appear over the heads of the elders of the clans. This algorithm cannot be said to be perfect, it can only be said to be full of loopholes. Exploit in a different way. Gujin continued to explain. Time is money, you can use your wages to buy rest time. Only 6% of the income goes into your own pocket every day, and you still need to buy it yourself during your breaks. A clan elder raised his hand tremblingly and asked. Excuse me, how much rest time can 6% of your income buy? Gujin stretched out his hand and opened his palm. 5 hours, 5 minutes, or. Before the clan elders could ask further questions, Gujin's thumb turned back and turned into 4. Grass. 5 seconds. This is no longer a vampire problem. Of course, my boss also knows that you all still have some wealth since ancient times. Gujin opened the skylight and spoke frankly, saying bluntly. You can sell whatever valuables you have. Trading in Wanguo Pavilion is a no-brainer. When many clan elders heard the words Wanguo Pavilion, they couldn't help but shed tears. Compared with here, Wanguo Pavilion is simply paradise. Let them go back, they want to go back to Wanguo Pavilion. Putting aside the tragic experience of the vampire clan elder, Yabai walked in the exclusive space, followed closely by Cain and Dracula. Yabai looked back at Dracula, sighed, and stopped talking. Look at what happened. Dracula. Today, he was completely embarrassed. The blood ancestor's male favorite, the only favorite. He couldn't wash away this shame even if he jumped into the sea of Shura. Yabai looked at Tianxia Pavilion. The little golden pig Lilith has accepted that she will be hung in the Tianxia Pavilion. As a show-off expert, she has a clear positioning of herself. Since you want to mess it up, then follow through to the end. She simply made herself a hammock, lay on the bed, and ate snacks while swinging, continuing to be her waist snack. This blood ancestor is also interesting. Yabai turned back to look at the 2 people behind him. Cain, the first assistant of the blood ancestor, The first person under the blood ancestor. Dracula, the male favorite of the blood ancestor, is the first person to be favored by anyone. Lilith, the sister of blood ancestor, is the first person to be ruined. It seems that everyone who is closely related to the blood ancestor is here. Hiss. Yabai couldn't help feeling a chill in the back of his head and complained. Oops, am I going to become a blood ancestor? After listening to Shura's words, Master Fool disdainfully said. How can you, blood ancestor, suck blood? You scold again. Yabai discovered that Master Fool didn't criticize him several times a day and felt uncomfortable all over. After finishing the argument, Yabai looked at Dracula and asked. Now that you know your hidden identity, have you remembered anything? Dracula looked uncertain. Yabai emphasized. Especially about your attack on the blood ancestor. Ever since I found out the identity of Dracula's male favorite, this matter has become ambiguous. When I watched it before, I thought Dracula was super brave and dared to fight against the blood ancestor. Looking at it now, I just feel that blood ancestor played really well. Yes, there is indeed. Dracula glanced at Cain and signaled that it was not convenient for him to express his loyalty because foreigners were present. Yabai spoke immediately. You fool, you separated Cain. Master Fool likes eating melon the most. Therefore, she must be counted among them. Before the Fool Master took action, Cain learned to answer. I have money. This is not a question of money, we must respect morality. Yabai hasn't finished speaking yet. He was summoned in privacy and offered a price that Yabai couldn't refuse. He was willing to help Yabai pay for the purchase of the remaining clan elders, but he had to give him a little more time. Make a deal. The Fool Master sets up a space to ensure that the conversations in the venue are not leaked out. But for Dracula, the one he needs to be wary of most is Cain. Keep it a secret, keep it safe. After everything was ready, Master Fool opened a bag of melon seeds and signaled Dracula to start. You all know that the origin of the last generation of blood ancestors is very mysterious. No one knows where she came from. Cain nodded, indeed. Even he didn't know which clan the blood ancestor came from. Logically speaking, vampires value bloodline inheritance the most. But the blood ancestor was ridiculously strong, not from the 13th clan, and had a useless sister. There are rumors that the blood ancestor was a test subject of a mysterious and powerful vampire who forcibly transformed the strong man into a vampire. The mortality rate was extremely horrific. Among tens of thousands of experiments, only the blood ancestor twin sisters survived. In ancient times, all kinds of tragedies happened one after another in order to create a strong person for the clan. The White Wolf King has such a background. Examples like the blood ancestor are not unusual. I was originally a vampire count, a very laid-back kind of person. I had a castle in the countryside and was isolated from the world. Dracula changed the topic and started talking about himself. Cain, anxious, urged. Tell the important point. One day, I bought a group of human slaves, partners. Dracula originally planned to say slave, but considering Shura's identity, he immediately changed his word to partner. Yabai rolled his eyes and decided directly. Skip all the foreshadowing and all the background, and just summarize the most important thing in one sentence. This is a great test of Dracula's writing skills. His expression changed several times, and finally he complied with Shura's request. I mean, probably, maybe, if I remember correctly. Under the eyes of everyone, Dracula almost collapsed, his voice kept trembling, and he told the truth in his memory. I gave the blood ancestor my first embrace. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 607. I gave the blood ancestor my first embrace. After saying these 7 words, even the Fool Master was stunned. Those who knew or did not know the blood ancestor were all silent. First embrace is a ritual of the vampires, similar to creating a new vampire. Yet I never expected that Dracula would be so brave. He didn't attack the blood ancestor at all, but gave the blood ancestor his first embrace and turned him into a vampire. In a sense, Dracula created the blood ancestor. Kane's face was full of anger, his eyes were burning with fire, and he wanted to burn this guy Dracula to dregs. Without the sudden rise of the last generation of blood ancestors, Kane will become the last generation of blood ancestors. History will change. At least, Kane will not end up today. Kane, furious, grabbed Dracula by the neck and shook him wildly. I was supposed to be the blood ancestor. Tell me, why should she be the blood ancestor? Tell me. Somewhat exasperated, Dracula, who kept rolling his eyes, said angrily. Just because she beat you up in the Blood River trial. Kane's face grew darker. During the trial, losing to the blood ancestor has always been Kane's dark history. Whoever mentions it will die. At the moment, Dracula is not afraid of being scalded by boiling water. Since he wants to commit suicide, he will carry it out to the end. The lower three tribes have a very significant feature. Whoever has the bigger fist is the boss. Blood ancestors and elf ancestors are all determined by their final combat power through various trials. The wolf ancestor is not a werewolf at all. As long as you defeat the wolf ancestor, you will be the wolf ancestor. That is to say, in the competition for the position of blood ancestor, Kane, who was favored by everyone, lost to an unknown country girl. Yeb I fell into deep thought, what kind of internet heroine script is this? It's a bit messy, let's smooth it over. Yeb I stopped Kane and asked Dracula to sit back in the dock. You bought the Lilith sisters and accidentally gave them their first embrace. What happens next? No, no. Dracula explained. I only gave Sister Lilith her first hug. How Lilith turned into a vampire, I don't know. Lilith is not worthy of Dracula's first embrace. Even if he was just a count at the time, it was impossible for Dracula to embrace everyone for the first time. The more powerful a vampire is, the more he cares about the purity of his bloodline. Everyone's reaction was surprisingly unanimous. Then what? Then Dracula looked at Kane with a complicated expression and said, on the second day after my first embrace, I received a notice from the Duke. His Royal Highness, the Great Prince Kane, may be passing through my territory when he is hunting in the north, and he needs me to provide hospitality along the way. After I finished the reception work, my subordinates told me that a group of humans had disappeared, but I didn't take it to heart at the time. Kane? It's been such a long time. For Kane, he had an impression of the northern hunting incident. But he didn't know. In order to receive him, a vampire count worked very hard, and his negligence caused the newly created vampire to escape. And this escaped vampire was the blood ancestor who would sweep the era in the future. It was like knocking down dominoes, triggering a series of chain reactions. Countless years later, in this small house, the truth slowly unfolded in front of everyone, and people couldn't help but sigh that things in the world are unpredictable, and the big intestine wraps up the small intestine. The key is. Dracula rolled his eyes. His Royal Highness, the great forbidden Prince Kane, actually did not pass by Count Dracula's territory. Kane. After hearing this absurd but true story, Yeb I couldn't help but sigh. Formalism kills people. If Kane did not hunt in the north, Dracula would not have to be responsible for reception. If Dracula didn't receive him, the weak blood ancestor would have no chance to escape. If the blood ancestor does not escape, Kane will become the new blood ancestor. Everything that happens next will never happen, and history will be rewritten. The so-called cause and effect is probably this kind of thing. Okay, I'll make an appointment, and there's only so much you're willing to confess. Yeb I clapped his hands, indicating that the melon eating was over. Dracula's secrets have been uncovered. But say 1,000 words and 10,000, the blood ancestor is dead. All discussions about her are just decryptions of past events. The living must live. I can tell you a piece of news for free. When the word free came out of Yebai's mouth, everyone present frowned. Here at Demon Lord, free things must be the most expensive. The blood ancestor is dead. Yebai said this calmly, but Dracula and Kane's reactions were completely different. Yebai interrupted Kane's condolences. The blood ancestor who easily defeated him in the Blood River trial, the most powerful of all blood ancestors, brought the blood clan to a level beyond its reach. If the blood ancestor was hiding in the dark, he would never sit idly by and ignore it. The original construction of the Eternal Tower was originally a method of diversifying investment. Dracula's eyebrows drooped, and there was a hint of sadness in his eyebrows, which quickly disappeared. How can your blood clan give birth to a new blood ancestor when the blood ancestor is dead and the most powerful seed is also dead? According to common sense, this information is a secret of the vampire clan. Kane looked a little embarrassed and explained. He didn't believe that the blood ancestor would die. Stop talking nonsense, which floor is it? He didn't believe it. Yebai rolled his eyes and ignored Kane's friends. Put it a little higher. My friend who built the Eternal Tower said. Regardless of the two people's reactions, Yebai continued. How could he die? At the end of the ancient times, the battles among all races had become fierce, and there were frequent wars of genocide. Kane said very modestly. He became that shameless Dracula again, deviant, deceiving his teachers and destroying his ancestors. The only meaning of life is to become stronger, and he will do whatever it takes to become stronger. You only need to do one thing to verify all your conjectures. No matter whether the blood ancestor is really dead or fake, or there are some special circumstances. Kane knew very well that Shura had no common sense here. How could he die? So, on which floor did your friend hide the trial content? The 98th floor. I got news about Shura in vain, and I got news about Shura in return. This is already the most cost-effective deal in the world. But Yebai's attitude was very clear. At that time, there was no talk of the 9 eternal clans. Everyone was equal, and the status of the blood clan was not low. If the blood ancestor had not disappeared, the upper 3 clans should have a place in my blood clan. Kane coughed twice and said. The Eternal Tower does have a test that can certify the blood ancestor's qualifications. Give the vampire a new blood ancestor. Obviously. Kane held his head high, his eyes full of disdain, and snorted coldly and arrogantly. It is reasonable for the vampires to continue their legacy and prepare for a rainy day by leaving a backup in the Eternal Tower. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 608. What nonsense are you talking about on the 98th floor? Yebai wanted to slap Kane to death. Really shot to death? That's okay. From Kane's perspective. When he was in charge of building the Eternal Tower, the vampire clan, under the leadership of the blood ancestor, was at its peak and running rampant. Even the dragon clan chooses to be on an equal footing with the vampire clan. Our ancestors were generous. If the blood ancestor is still there, and the 9 eternal clans are redivided, the blood clan can be regarded as the 3 clans on the old Eternal Tower. What stands out is an authentic one. On this basis, Kane wanted to choose a floor to hide the vampire's trial place. He must be hiding as high as possible. In Kane's opinion, the 98 floors are too low, so the 101st floor should be installed. The painting style changed to, the live broadcast for you now is the Eternal Tower 101 Blood Ancestor Training Camp. In short, even today, Kane feels that his original decision was right. You can't even climb to the 98th floor, are you a fucking blood ancestor? But For Yabai, sending people in was as difficult as climbing to the sky. The 98th floor, which is downstairs from the third brother's house, is infinitely close to the 100th floor. It took Yabai 2 months of hard work to climb to the 38th floor, which was already considered amazing speed. You know, Yabai not only got full exploration on every level, but also took the time to go to the abyss several times. Things like climbing stairs are definitely getting more difficult as you go up. According to this progress, it would be at least half a year before Yabai climbed to the 98th floor. The most important thing is that Yabai was already almost the strongest at that time, so he still cared about a blood ancestor. The reason why he got involved with the blood ancestor was because Yabai wanted to explore the history of the creation of the Eternal Tower. Also, the blood ancestor may be a big help. It's better now. The blood ancestor is dead. If a new blood ancestor is to be born, he needs to wait until the 98th floor. We have to find another way. Yabai calculated in his heart. Ask the third brother when you have time. If the third brother doesn't work, then look for Taling. When encountering difficulties, shake people off. Okay, this is very sure. The meeting is dismissed, the meeting is dismissed. Yabai clapped his hands and kicked everyone out. The matter of the blood ancestor has come to an end. Yabai still has an internship in the abyss today and is going to the 8th abyss to find Poseidon, the scapegoat. Even if Xuemeng is accompanying him, Yabai must make preparations in advance. The force of nature, due to gold plating and financial losses, Yabai can only put it in his backpack at present, which is not very convenient to use. Moreover, Yabai asked himself, there is no staff in his hand, but there is a staff in his heart. Who says someone with a sword can't be a mage? Sword of the King of Heaven, shield of Cain, sword and shield in hand, the abyss is walking sideways. As for skills, in addition to regular skill reserves, Yabai also copied a banishing skill, which can be effective even against God's level opponents. In view of the relatively low risk factor of this operation. In addition, after successive battles, the strength of Abyss was greatly damaged, and both clans needed to recuperate. The main thing is that after Shura appeared in this world, he was so tormented. Calculating carefully, since Shura was born, the great devil was seriously injured. The second demon's plan was in vain. The third, sixth, seventh, and eighth demons will die. The fourth demon god turns into a bastard. Fifth demon god, I am also one of the abyss demon gods. Why don't I feel any threat to my life? The most critical point is that this time, Yabai had Xuemeng as a bodyguard by his side. Except for people like the strongest man and Zhu Ye, Xuemeng is already the most capable fighter in the human race. Others, such as Su Qingfeng and others, are not as good as Yabai in combat effectiveness, and they have white belts. The last time Yabai killed the demon ancestor alone, Su Qingfeng gathered all his strength and shot the demon ancestor with an arrow. Laughing to death, the defense was not broken at all. After getting ready, Yabai was ready to leave the exclusive space and return to the eternal forest. Wait, you can't leave. Master Fool quickly stopped him. Where's the happiness today? Yabai also wanted to ask, where is happiness? Ever since he lost his fortune, Yabai has no happiness. If you go to the abyss this time, you probably won't be able to come back in a day or two. The Fool Master calculated it very clearly. There are 10 billion gold coins here. You can convert them in one go and we'll settle the matter. 10 billion. Yabai's face turned pale and his voice trembled slightly. You might as well kill me. 10 billion gold coins, that's 10,000 God of War merits. All shrunk into copper coins. I can't live this day. The Fool Master sneered. I feel like this is happier than killing you. I have no choice but to complete the contract I signed, even if I cry. Yabai can no longer remember how he got out of the Copper Mountain and Copper Sea of 10 billion gold coins. He was numb, and all his feelings could only be described in 4 words. Pain. It hurt so much. Back in the eternal forest, Ye Bai hesitated and did not go to Xiaoyao. First, Bai Yun did not fall in front of him, which meant that the third brother did not initiate the chat. On the other hand, Ye Bai is no longer the Shura he used to be. Isn't it just a trip to the abyss? Does it mean that the third brother needs to save his life to go there? The most powerful seed must look like the most powerful seed. Ye Bai decided to be tough for a while. Knowing the 100% full health survival rate in advance, you must be tough when speaking. Ignoring the cynicism, Ye Bai walked on the road of the eternal forest, stepped out of the shadows, raised his chest and raised his head, feeling as if there was a surge of great pride in his heart. He hadn't stood still for 3 seconds when he suddenly stopped, feeling stiff all over and his pupils constricted. On the other side of the road, Ye Bai saw a butterfly. Generally speaking, white butterflies are easily mistaken for moths. But when this butterfly appeared in front of him, Ye Bai knew very well that it was a butterfly that looked like a white cloud. Ye Bai didn't move, and the butterfly flew towards him. Ye Bai saluted respectfully and said rigorously, "Good morning." "Good." Butterfly said calmly, his voice was ethereal, a style that Ye Bai was familiar with. After saying hello, the butterfly landed in front of Ye Bai and said seriously, "I've almost figured it out." Ye Bai's heart skipped a beat and he decided to pretend to be stupid and asked knowingly, "What?" Butterfly said seriously, "Is it Xiaoyao Mendi or Butterfly Meng Xiaoyao? Third brother is too upright." Seeing that Ye Bai was pretending to be stupid, he turned to ask, "How long?" The butterfly announces a time. As short as 3 to 5 days, as long as 2 months. Compared with Xiaoyao's many years of thinking, this time is just a blink of an eye. Being able to figure it out is of course a good thing for Xiaoyao. After getting the answer, Ye Bai asked bravely, "What do you need me to do?" The butterfly in front of Ye Bai can be said to be Xiaoyao's projection or incarnation. It was extremely rare to appear in front of Ye Bai in this form, which meant that he had to ask Ye Bai to do something. If it was Ye Bai who wanted Xiaoyao, it would be Ye Bai who went to Xiaoyao, not Xiaoyao to Ye Bai. Only Ye Bai could understand this truth in such a short time and ask for it. To some extent, having dealt with third brother so many times, Ye Bai has mastered the method of communicating efficiently with the strongest Xiaoyao. Butterfly replied seriously, "Don't die until I figure it out." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 609. Don't die. This is Xiaoyao's minimum requirement for Ye Bai. What a big deal I am. Rest assured. Ye Bai patted his chest and said, "I can't guarantee anything else, but if you live well, I promise to complete the mission." Laughing to death, I don't dare to die at all. In terms of fate, the first 3 powerful seeds combined are no match for Ye Bai. On the road of Go, Ye Bai has already won too many victories. To give the simplest example, when Wu Hen was born, Yingju was really by his side, inseparable. Yingju is really scared. Without paying attention, Wu Hen will attack. It doesn't matter whether the enemy is a demon or a monster, he will strike twice with his sword first. At that time, Yingju had great talent. He was the Yingju at his peak, and even the demon god could make gestures. Only Yingju like this can protect Wu Hen. As a protector, Yingju could just let go, leaving Ye Bai to face the demons and ghosts alone, and run to the strongest abyss wave. This insidates that, in Yingju's judgment, this kid no longer needs to protect his way. So, when Xiaoyao and Ye Bai talked about don't die, their majors immediately hit the target. The butterfly nodded, flapped its wings and left the spot, leaving behind a sentence. The most powerful demon will not take action against you. After hearing these words, Yebai took a breath and felt a chill on the back of his head. He suddenly understood why the third brother made a special trip to find him. If you need to think carefully about problems, you will enter a state similar to retreat. This has happened many times over the past 30 years. Not that big of a deal. Because Xiaoao usually doesn't care about anything and doesn't go out. With or without him, the battle will still be fought and the dance will still be danced. The demon god of the abyss would not be so blind, specifically provoking a powerful person. Theoretically speaking, when Xiaoao is in retreat, out of respect for the strongest, the abyss will be quieter. But times have changed. Now that Xiaoao is in retreat again, he can ensure that the most powerful demon will not take action. But the devil underneath is not so easy to talk to. Any demon god who can kill the strongest human seed is a great achievement. The most powerful demon god can even specifically relax restrictions and reward the demon god for ascending to the upper realm. The devil's heart is like water, and the spirit is like smoke. Without Xiaoao's intimidation, without Yingju's protection, his Yebai was surprised to find that he suddenly fell into the most dangerous situation. It's like a life and death contest. You originally thought your opponent was Su Qingfeng, but when you came on stage, you found out it was Xue Meng. No, not only that. When he appeared on the stage, he found that his opponent was one of three choices: Nightmare, Wuhan, and Xiaoao. Is it such a big deal? Yebai smiled bitterly and shook his head without saying anything more. It's a blessing, not a curse, but it's a curse that cannot be avoided. If Yebai really faces a life and death crisis, Xiaoao will also come out to save people. The problem is, in this way, Xiaoao's own affairs will be delayed. In other words, Yebai does not need to face a real life and death crisis. What he needs to do is to prevent himself from falling into a certain death situation. After figuring out the relationship between cause and effect, Yebai didn't feel relaxed, but instead felt heavier. In terms of emotion and reason, in terms of public and private matters, he was not willing to delay the third brother's thinking about the problem. Xiaoao is also afraid of death, but figuring out this problem is a matter of life and death for Xiaoao. After so many years of hard work, we finally saw the dawn of hope. We can't fall down here, right? According to this logic. Yebai pondered for a moment and came to a reasonable conclusion. This wave of Shura has made great achievements. After returning to Shanghai University, Yebai followed the information on the communicator and gathered at the designated location. At the meeting point, Ying Si was waiting for Yebai. Under the cover of Shadow 4, Yebai turned to join Xue Meng. In terms of identity confidentiality, Yebai has always been very careful about it. As soon as he saw Shura, Xue Meng immediately picked up the sledgehammer. Let's go, the eighth abyss is really lively now. Etc. Yebai asked seriously. Is it too late to cancel going to the eighth abyss now? After chatting with Xiaoao, Yebai felt that if he could not go into the abyss, then he shouldn't go into it. It's too late, but it's too late. Xue Meng was confused and asked. Didn't you accept Poseidon's money and swear on King Huotian's life? Poseidon has publicized this matter everywhere and used it as a life-saving talisman. What a big deal. Yebai said disdainfully, pointing out the bug in the contract. Can't I just beat Huotian to death once? King Huotian's life is worthless. For Huotian Wang, who possesses 9 deaths without regrets. If you keep killing him due to contract punishment, it will also be strengthened to a certain extent. In fact, the contract will only take effect once. Huo Tianwang will enter a state of near death and then be resurrected by surviving 9 deaths without regrets. Xue Meng? Can you still play like this? What a great experience. This incident further strengthened Xuemeng's understanding. Any contract signed by Shura on his own initiative is bullshit. This guy can always find weird bugs to violate the contract. Look at Poseidon, even if he took the fate of King Huo Tian, he still fell into the trap. When the contract was made, Ye Bai specially singled out King Huo Tian and gave King Huo the highest price. Here, Ye Bai dug a hole for Poseidon. Poseidon thought that here in Shura, the most expensive is the best. In fact, the most expensive ones are the most deceptive. If Poseidon had chosen the cheapest Su Qingfeng, Ye Bai really didn't dare to risk Su Qingfeng's death by violating the contract. Ye Bai thought for a moment and finally decided. Go ahead. The eighth abyss, Poseidon, these opponents are considered weak among the demon gods. If this hurdle cannot be overcome, Ye Bai will not be able to survive in the future. Although I have made up my mind. But there are some things that Ye Bai needs to explain clearly to Xuemeng in advance. It might be different this time. Ye Bai emphasized. There may be a demon that attacks me, are you sure? What's the certainty? Xuemeng asked confusedly. I have dealt with all the demon gods, and none of them can kill me. Ye Bai. In a sense. Xuemeng, the most powerful adopted son, is even safer than Shura. He's here to kill me. Ye Bai rolled his eyes. In order to cooperate well, we should know each other's combat capabilities in advance. Is this reasonable? Although the two are familiar with each other, they have little experience in actually fighting together. In fact, it is hard to imagine that apart from the demon god, there is any enemy in this world worthy of Ye Bai and Xuemeng joining forces. Ye Bai took the initiative to introduce himself. I'm relatively brittle, and my output ability is average, 1 or 2 trillion per second. After introducing himself, Ye Bai looked at Xuemeng, waiting for him to introduce himself. Xuemeng thought for a while and gave himself a fair evaluation. I'm more fierce. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 610. A bit fierce? Everyone knows whether Xuemeng is Meng or not. Ye Bai once fought with the Steppenwolf ancestor for 500 rounds, and they were evenly matched, with both sides winning or losing. Result. The Steppenwolf ancestor was smashed into meat patties by Xuemeng. The body was also thrown into the forbidden blood pool by Ye Bai. Waste is recycled. Xuemeng's past results also proved that his own strength was terrifying. If Xuemeng were not traveling with him, Ye Baijin may cancel this trip to the 8th abyss. Now that the meeting with Xuemeng was successful, Ye Bai asked Ying Si to go home. If a demon really comes to kill me, it makes no difference whether there is one more 9th level war god or one less. Ye Bai was very tolerant and there was no need to force his 4th brother to be his bodyguard. Ying Si nodded and replied. Over at Shadow Castle, according to 4th Master's previous instructions, 1/3 of the war gods are currently in a state of combat readiness and can be dispatched at any time. Xuemeng? Isn't it just a trip to the abyss? Is it okay for Shura to directly train more than 30 war gods? How about becoming a cheerleader? Feeling the surprise in Xuemeng's eyes, Ye Bai rolled his eyes. What are you looking at? I'm still thinking that with one order, 100,000 war gods will appear. There are only more than 30 people. To put it harshly, what can we do? When you find an abyss demon ready to assassinate Shura, there are already 1,000 abyss demon gods ambushing the house. No matter what, Ye Bai adheres to his principle unwaveringly, his life is important. After a lot of tossing, the two officially set off. In order to deceive others, Ye Bai specially changed his equipment and simply armed himself. Helmets, contact lenses, eyebrow enhancement powder, special masks, braces. The dark heavy armor is paired with copper wire soft armor to maximize the defense. Of course, the most important thing is the weapon. With the Heavenly King sword in hand, you can walk across the abyss. Looking at Shura, who had transformed into a heavily armored warrior, question marks began to appear above Xuemeng's head. Is this really necessary? Yes, it is necessary. Ye Bai proved it with practical actions. Big Menzi, let's discuss something. As soon as Ye Bai opened his mouth, he was rejected by Xuemeng. No need to talk about Golden Abyss. Look at your potential. If you didn't mention Huang Jinyuan, I would have forgotten about it. Ye Bai snorted coldly, then turned to say seriously. Can I hide in your shadow? Xuemeng? Hey, okay. Shura, who was fully armed, slipped into Xuemeng's shadow. Xuemeng couldn't laugh or cry. What is this thing called? If Yingju was present, he could only say that he should not be 6. From a certain perspective, this kind of Shura has the right taste. Now that preparations are complete, Xuemeng officially sets off. He didn't advance far in the void, and he stopped when Shura's voice sounded in his ears. Why is Father Lan here? The two of them discovered that a powerful swordsman was approaching almost at the same time. Due to the tracelessness, there are no monster swords in the abyss. As for the human race, the only one who could make Xuemeng fearful was Lan Bangxian. Lan Bangxian was accompanied by an acquaintance of Ye Bai, Huo Tianyi. Why is Xiao Huo here too? Lan Bangxian took Huo Tianyi and appeared in front of Xuemeng. Huo Tianyi had a dark face and was obviously in a bad mood. Among the older generation, it is an open secret that Lan Bangxian and Huo Tianwang do not deal with each other. Earlier, King Huo Tian used his sword and was humiliated and ridiculed by Lan Bangxian in every possible way. People with high swordsmanship are also very tall when they have strange yin and yang energy. In extreme anger, Huo Tianwang gave up his sword and became a sword, and was then humiliated by Yingju in every possible way. In the end, Huo Tianwang abandoned the sword. Before the 9th level god of war, Lan Bangxian vaguely overwhelmed Huo Tianwang. The two fought, and Huo Tianwang lost more than he won. Result: King Huo Tian broke through to the Tongtian god of war first, and in turn defeated Lan Bangxian. All in all, the feud between the two is getting deeper and deeper. It's okay if the two are tired of each other. Huo Tianwang has bad breath in front of him. Huo Tianyi also looked down on Lan Bangxian, who played with swords. To be precise, Huo Tianyi looked down upon everyone. It was quite interesting that the two of them appeared at the same time. Lan Bangxian is a little strange. Didn't you say that Shura is with you? Huo Tianyi snorted coldly, and before Xuemeng could speak, he stepped heavily on Xuemeng's shadow. Xuemeng's shadow was just right to avoid it. You can't step on it? Interesting. Lan Bangxian saw the clue immediately. Laoju actually left the source of the film to you. Ye Bai's talent in the shadow path is indeed good. However, it is not enough to deceive Lan Bangxian. Lan Bangxian is extremely talented, born with double eyes, and his vision far surpasses that of a 9th level war god. Ye Bai was hiding in the shadows and was able to deceive Lan Bangxian, all because of Yingyuan. Huo Tianyi was able to guess the truth because of his familiarity with Shura. He knows Shura so well. After saying hello, Xuemeng asked, "Uncle, what are you doing? If Lan Bangxian isn't playing chess with Wuhan in the first abyss, why is he out in the 8th abyss?" Lan Bangxian explained casually. "Your father is worried and asked me to come over and have a look." Obviously. Wuhan already knew about Xiao Ao's retreat. Since Shura is in danger, it makes sense for Wuhan to ask Lan Bangxian to come over and help out. Ye Bai looked at Huo Tianyi and was surprised to find that the other party had become the king of battle. "Xiao Huo, it's okay. Huo Tianyi has the experience left by King Huo Tianyi, as well as talents that can be grown, and he can also use bug to survive 9 deaths without regrets. Wanting to upgrade is as simple as eating and drinking. Even so, this kind of promotion speed is terrifying. Yabai nodded with satisfaction. In this way, the 7 million God of War merits you owe me will definitely be paid. Huo Tianyi. Ignoring the grudges between the two juniors, Lan Bangxian said calmly. We acted separately, but when we gathered together, it only irritated people. Good. G.S% carrot. After knowing that Lan Bangxian was also in the 8th abyss and that Wuhan was also paying attention to this place, Ye Bai's sense of security skyrocketed. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore. The two parties briefly met and then parted ways. Lan Bangxian and Huo Tianyi stood there and watched Xuemeng leave. Staring at Xuemeng's shadow, Huo Tianyi had a sneer on his face. Shura, your courage is getting fatter and fatter. 2 days ago, a chess piece suddenly appeared next to him, named Huo Xiaowang, with 9 stars. Huo Tianyi was furious. Even if he wanted to divide the king into kings and little kings, he should still be the king. Shura, refund the money. Lan Bangxian had no intention of supporting the fire and said disdainfully. So what if you are brave? You can't beat Shura. Huo Tianyi had never lost when it came to bad breath, and he immediately fought back. Say it like you can win. Let me do the math. Lan Bangxian pondered for a moment, then regretfully spoke. The relationship between me and Shura is very different. I can't think of any reason to lose. Huo Tianyi refused. Why? What a loud tone. I am richer than you, I can lose money, I can make gold. Lan Bangxian counted his advantages in detail. The most important point is, I can call people. Lan Bangxian was very serious and added, I can call Wuhan.